My name is Kirsten Matthews. I'm 24, and I thought I knew what family betrayal looked like until my parents called the police on me for refusing to hand over my graduation money. What started as them missing my college graduation ceremony turned into the most shocking family scandal that exposed decades of lies, financial manipulation, and a twisted game of favoritism that would destroy everything I believed about blood loyalty. The moment those officers knocked on my apartment door demanding I pay my parents $2,100, I realized my entire childhood had been carefully orchestrated deception. But what my parents didn't know was that I had been documenting everything, and their desperate attempt to silence me would backfire in ways that would leave our entire extended family questioning everything they thought they knew about the perfect Matthews family facade. Hey everyone! Before we dive into this absolutely wild family drama that still gives me chills, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below, and if you're ready for a story that proves karma is real and family revenge can be absolutely satisfying, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because this journey of justice is going to blow your mind. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll understand why sometimes the people who should love you most can become your biggest enemies, and how the truth always finds a way to surface, no matter how deep they try to bury it. Growing up in suburban Denver, I was the textbook definition of a golden child, or so I thought. My parents, David and Linda Matthews, owned a successful accounting firm, and our two-story colonial house with the perfectly manicured lawns screamed American dream achieved. I maintained a 4 gigapascals throughout high school, played varsity tennis, volunteered at the local animal shelter, and never gave my parents a single reason to worry. My younger brother Tyler, on the other hand, was their constant source of stress, dropping out of college twice, bouncing between jobs, and always needing financial bailouts for his latest business venture that inevitably failed within months. For years I watched my parents pour thousands of dollars into Tyler's schemes while praising my academic achievements with empty words. When I got accepted into Colorado State University with a partial scholarship, they seemed proud but made it clear that I'd need to cover the remaining costs myself. "You're so responsible, Kirsten," my mom would say. "We know you'll figure it out." Meanwhile, Tyler's failed attempts at community college were fully funded, no questions asked. I worked 3 part-time jobs throughout college, tutoring, waitressing, and doing freelance graphic design, to pay for my education. Every semester I'd watch my classmates get care packages and surprise visits from their families while I survived on ramen noodles and determination. My parents' excuses were always the same: the business was struggling, Tyler needed help getting back on his feet, or they had unexpected expenses. I believed them because I wanted to believe that their love was just expressed differently. The pattern became so normalized that I started making excuses for them too. When they missed my 21st birthday because Tyler had a crisis, I told my friends they were busy with work. When they couldn't attend my junior year academic awards ceremony because they were helping Tyler move apartments again, I smiled and said family comes first. I had become an expert at rationalizing their absence, convincing myself that their love was shown through the independence they forced me to develop. Senior year arrived and I was finally approaching the finish line of my communications degree with a minor in digital marketing. I had already secured a job offer from a marketing agency in Denver starting 2 weeks after graduation. For the first time in years, I felt genuinely excited about sharing good news with my parents. Surely this milestone, their daughter graduating summa cum laude from college, would be important enough for them to prioritize. I called them 6 weeks before graduation to save the date. May 15th, 2 p.m. I said excitedly into the phone. "I'm graduating summa cum laude and I get to give a speech as the outstanding student in my program." My dad's response was lukewarm: "Congratulations," and my mom immediately started talking about Tyler's new girlfriend and how they were planning to help him with a down payment for an apartment. 2 weeks before graduation, I sent them the official invitation with all the details, including the post-ceremony dinner reservations I had made at their favorite steakhouse. I even offered to pay for the dinner as a thank you for their support throughout my college years, support that looking back had been virtually non-existent. My mom texted back a simple, "We'll try to make it," which should have been my first red flag. The day before graduation, I called to confirm the timing and ask what time they'd be arriving. That's when my dad dropped the bomb that would shatter my illusion of family unity forever. "Kirsten, honey, we're not going to be able to make it. Tyler's having some issues with his landlord and we need to help him find a new place this weekend." "You understand, right? You've always been so independent." I stood in my tiny apartment holding the phone in stunned silence. 4 years of sacrifice, of working myself to exhaustion, of making excuses for their absence. And they were going to miss the biggest day of my academic life for Tyler's housing drama. Something that could have been handled any other 6-weekend. "But Dad, this is my graduation. I'm giving a speech. I reserved dinner for you guys. We're really proud of you, sweetheart. You don't need us there to succeed. That's what makes you special." The casual dismissal in his voice was like a slap across the face. They weren't even trying to hide their priorities anymore. I graduated summa cum laude the next day, delivered my speech to a crowd of families celebrating their children's achievements, and sat alone at a dinner table set for 4. The empty chairs across from me represented more than just their physical absence. They symbolized 24 years of emotional neglect, disguised as building character. 3 weeks after graduation, while I was settling into my new job and trying to process the hurt of my parents' absence, I received an unexpected call from my grandmother. Nana Patricia, my dad's mother, had always been the family's emotional anchor, and the one person who never failed to show up for important moments. She had been at my graduation beaming with pride and taking photos when my parents should have been there. "Kirsten, honey, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me," Nana said, her voice carrying an unusual tension. "Did your parents give you the graduation money yet?" My heart skipped. "What graduation money, Nana?" The silence on the other end of the line stretched uncomfortably long. "Sweetheart, I gave your father $2,103 months ago specifically for your graduation gift. It was your grandfather's life insurance money that I had been saving for this moment. I told him it was to help you celebrate your achievement and maybe put toward your new apartment or pay off some student loans." The floor felt like it was falling out from under me. $2,100. That money could have covered my security deposit and first month's rent, eliminating the financial stress I'd been carrying since graduation. Instead, I had been surviving on credit cards and the small savings I'd managed to accumulate from my part-time jobs. "Nana, they never mentioned any graduation money. They didn't even come to my graduation." The words tumbled out before I could stop them, and I immediately regretted revealing the depth of their abandonment. "They what?" Nana's voice rose to a level I'd never heard before. "David told me they were so excited about your graduation that they wanted to make it extra special. He said they were planning a big celebration dinner and wanted to surprise you with the money then." The pieces started clicking together in the most nauseating way possible. My parents had taken money specifically intended for my graduation and probably used it for another one of Tyler's emergencies. They had lied to their own mother about attending my graduation and then pocketed the money she had lovingly set aside for my achievement. "Nana, I think you should call Dad directly about this," I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the rage building in my chest. "Oh, I certainly will. This is absolutely unacceptable, Kirsten. That money was for you from your grandfather's memory for your accomplishment." After hanging up, I sat in my tiny apartment, staring at the graduation photo on my coffee table, the one where I was holding my diploma alone, fake smiling for a selfie because there was no family there to take the picture. The betrayal was layered in ways I was still discovering. Not only had they prioritized Tyler over my milestone moment, but they had also stolen money intended for me and lied to their own mother about it. I decided to do something I'd never done before. I started documenting everything. I opened a new folder on my laptop labeled Family Financial History and began writing down every instance I could remember of my parents giving Tyler money while making me fend for myself. The pattern that emerged was staggering. Over the past 6 years, I estimated they had given Tyler at least $30 0 inches direct financial support, college tuition, car payments, rent assistance, business startup costs, debt consolidation, emergency funds, and countless smaller loans that were never repaid. Meanwhile, my total financial support from them during the same period was exactly $0. In fact, I had actually given them money several times, including $500 for their wedding anniversary dinner and $300 when their car needed repairs and they claimed to be short on cash. The documentation process was therapeutic but infuriating. I wasn't just the overlooked child, I was the financial contributor, while Tyler was the endless financial drain. Yet somehow in their twisted family dynamic this was considered normal and fair. 2 days later, Nana called back with an update that made my blood boil. I spoke with your father and he claims he gave you the money at graduation. When I told him you said you didn't receive it, he suggested that maybe you forgot or that you're lying because you want more money. My dad had actually accused me of lying about receiving graduation money that I never got to his own mother to cover up his theft. The audacity was breathtaking. This wasn't just financial betrayal anymore. This was character assassination. Nana, I promise you on Grandpa's memory, I never received a single dollar from them for graduation. In fact, they didn't even show up because they were helping Tyler with his apartment situation. I believe you, sweetheart, and I'm going to get to the bottom of this. That night I made a decision that would change everything. I was going to confront my parents directly about the money and I was going to record the conversation. I had spent 24 years being gaslit and manipulated, watching them prioritize Tyler while taking credit for my independence, as if my struggle was their parenting strategy. But stealing graduation money from their own mother and then lying about giving it to me crossed a line that I couldn't ignore. The next Saturday, I drove to my childhood home with a plan and a fully charged phone, ready to record. The house looked exactly the same as always, perfect exterior masking the dysfunction within. I had rehearsed what I was going to say, but nothing could have prepared me for the explosive revelation that was about to unfold. My parents were in the kitchen when I arrived, and Tyler was surprisingly there too, lounging on the couch playing video games like he was still 16 instead of 22. The scene was so typical it was almost comical, the golden child failure being coddled while the actual successful child was treated like an outsider in her own family home. "Hey sweetheart," my mom chirped with fake enthusiasm. "What brings you by? You look tired. Are you eating enough? We need to talk about something important," I said, setting my purse down and discreetly starting the voice recording app on my phone. Nana called me about graduation money. The temperature in the room immediately dropped. My dad's face went through several expressions before settling on defensive anger, while my mom suddenly became very interested in cleaning the already spotless counter. "I don't know what your grandmother told you my dad started, but we gave you that money at graduation. If you don't remember, that's not our problem. Dad, you didn't even come to my graduation. How could you have given me money there?" "Of course we came to your graduation. We sat in the back because we arrived late due to traffic." I stared at him in complete disbelief. He was doubling down on a lie that was so easily disproven it was almost insulting. "Dad, I have photos from that day. I have the video of my speech. You can ask literally anyone who was there. Professor Martinez, my advisor, even asked me where my family was because I was sitting alone at the dinner afterward." "You're being dramatic, Kirsten. We were there, we're proud of you, and we gave you the money. If you spent it and forgot, that's on you." That's when Tyler, who had been pretending not to listen, Made the mistake that would unravel everything. Dude, just tell her the truth. She's going to find out anyway. My parents both spun around to glare at Tyler, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine panic in their eyes. Tyler, shut up, my mom hissed. What truth? I demanded, feeling my heart rate spike. Tyler, oblivious to the gravity of what he was about to reveal, shrugged and said, that you used her graduation money to pay for my security deposit. It's not that big a deal. She makes good money now anyway. The silence that followed was deafening. My parents looked like they wanted to strangle Tyler, and I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience. They had stolen my graduation money to fund Tyler's apartment, lied to their own mother about it, gaslit me about attending graduation, and were now caught red-handed by Tyler's casual confession. You used my graduation money from Grand PA's life insurance to pay for Tyler's apartment. My voice was barely above a whisper, but the rage was building like a tsunami. Kirsten, you need to understand, my mom started. No, you need to understand. I exploded, years of suppressed frustration finally erupting. I worked 3 jobs to pay for college while you handed Tyler everything. I graduated summa cum laude, and you couldn't even show up. And then you stole money that was specifically meant for my achievement to fund his latest failure. We didn't steal anything, my dad said coldly. That money went to family needs. Tyler needed help, and you're doing fine on your own. Tyler needed help, I was screaming now, and I didn't care. Tyler has needed help his entire adult life. When does it end? When do I matter? When do my achievements get celebrated instead of used to fund his disasters? That's when my mom said the words that would haunt our relationship forever. Kirsten, you've always been selfish. Tyler needs more support because he struggles more. You've never needed us because you're cold and independent. Maybe if you showed more appreciation for everything we've done for you, we'd be more inclined to help. The gaslighting was so expertly delivered that for a split second, I actually questioned myself. Had I been selfish? Was I cold for wanting my parents at my graduation? Was I ungrateful for being angry about stolen money? But then I looked at Tyler, sprawled on the couch that my parents had bought him, wearing clothes they'd paid for, living rent-free in an apartment they'd funded with my graduation money, and the clarity hit me like lightning. Everything you've done for me, I laughed bitterly. What exactly have you done for me? Because I have documented every financial transaction, every missed event, every time you chose Tyler over me, and the evidence is overwhelming. You documented what my dad's voice turned menacing. Everything. 6 years of financial records showing that you've given Tyler over $30,000 while giving me nothing. Photos from every graduation, birthday, and achievement where you were absent. Text messages where you made excuses. Voice recordings of phone calls where you prioritized his emergencies over my milestones. The room fell silent except for the sound of Tyler's video game, which now seemed obscenely inappropriate for the gravity of the moment. And now, I continued, I have a recording of Tyler admitting that you used my graduation money for his security deposit, and Dad lying about attending my graduation. My mom's face went white. You recorded us without permission. In Colorado, I only need one-party consent for recordings, and I'm the one party who consented. Everything I just captured is completely legal and admissible. My dad stood up, his face red with anger. You give me that phone right now, Kirsten. This family business doesn't leave this house. Actually, Dad, this ceased being family business the moment you stole from your own mother and lied about it. Nana deserves to know the truth about where her gift money really went. If you share those recordings or cause problems in this family, there will be consequences, he said, stepping toward me threateningly. I grabbed my purse and backed toward the door. The consequences already happened, Dad. You destroyed this family the moment you decided Tyler's failures were more important than my successes. I'm done enabling this dysfunction. Kirsten, don't you dare walk out that door, my mom called after me. Watch me, I said, and left my childhood home for what I thought would be the last time. But as I sat in my car, hands shaking as I drove away, I had no idea that my parents' desperation to silence me would lead them to make the most spectacular mistake of their lives, one that would expose their true character to everyone. They'd spent years trying to impress. Okay, hold up. I know this is getting intense, but I need to pause here for a second because what happens next is so unbelievable that even I couldn't have predicted it. My parents were about to make a move so desperate and stupid that it would literally hand me all the evidence I needed to expose their lies to everyone. If you're invested in this story and want to see how this family drama reaches nuclear levels, make sure you're subscribed because the next part involves police false accusations and the most satisfying justice you've ever seen. Drop a comment if you've ever dealt with parents who favor one sibling over another. This story is about to show you exactly how that favoritism can backfire in spectacular fashion. 3 days after the confrontation, I was settling into my evening routine in my small but cozy apartment when a firm knock interrupted my dinner. Through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers standing in the hallway and my stomach immediately dropped. My first thought was that something had happened to Nana, or that there had been some kind of family emergency. Miss Matthews, I'm Officer Rodriguez and this is Officer Chen. We need to speak with you about a theft complaint that's been filed against you. Theft complaint? I opened the door completely bewildered. I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. I haven't stolen anything. According to the complaint, you're in possession of $100 that belongs to David and Linda Matthews. They're requesting immediate return of the funds and they have documentation showing they gave you this money for graduation expenses. The audacity was so breathtaking that I almost laughed. My parents had actually called the police and filed a false report claiming that I had stolen graduation money that they had never given me, money that they had actually stolen from their own mother. Officers, I think there's been a serious misunderstanding. Would you mind if I showed you some documentation that might clarify this situation? Officer Rodriguez nodded and I invited them into my small living room. I pulled out my laptop and opened the folder I'd been building with evidence of my parents' financial favoritism and the graduation money situation. First I said, pulling up photos on my phone, here are pictures from my graduation day 3 weeks ago. As you can see, I'm alone in every single photo because my parents didn't attend. They claimed they gave me money at graduation, but they weren't even there. Officer Chen examined the photos, noting the timestamp and the empty seats around me during the ceremony. Second, I continued, I have a recording from 3 days ago where my brother accidentally admits that my parents used my graduation money to pay for his apartment security deposit. I played the relevant portion of the recording where Tyler casually mentioned the truth. And third, I said, pulling up bank statements on my laptop, here are my financial records showing no deposit of $100 or any amount close to that in the past 3 months. If they had given me this money, there would be a paper trail. Officer Rodriguez was taking notes and looking increasingly uncomfortable. Miss Matthews, are you saying your parents filed a false police report? I'm saying they're claiming I stole money that they never gave me. The money in question actually came from my grandmother, who gave it to my father specifically for my graduation gift. Instead of giving it to me, they used it for my brother's apartment, and now they're trying to get me to pay them back $100 that was never theirs to begin with. I pulled up Nana's phone number. Officers, would you like to call my grandmother? She's the one who originally gave my father this money, and she's the one who told me about it, because she was wondering why I hadn't thanked her for the graduation gift I never received. Officer Chen stepped aside to make a phone call, presumably to verify my story, while Officer Rodriguez continued reviewing my documentation. Miss Matthews, do you have any idea why your parents would file this complaint? Honestly, I think they're trying to silence me. 3 days ago, I confronted them about lying to my grandmother and stealing my graduation money. I recorded the conversation because I was tired of being gaslit and manipulated. They threatened me when they found out I had evidence of their lies. Officer Chen returned from his phone call looking grim. I just spoke with Patricia Matthews and she confirms that she gave her son $2,100 specifically for his daughter's graduation gift. She also confirms that she recently discovered the money was never given to her granddaughter, and that her son claimed he had given it to you at graduation. Officer Rodriguez closed his notepad. Miss Matthews, based on the evidence you've shown us and the confirmation from Mrs. Patricia Matthews, it appears that no theft occurred on your part. In fact, this seems like a civil family matter involving the misappropriation of gift funds. Officers, there's something else you should know, I said, feeling emboldened by their professional handling of the situation. My parents have a pattern of taking money intended for me and giving it to my brother instead. I've been documenting this for years. Filing a false police report seems to be their attempt to intimidate me into staying quiet about their financial manipulation. Officer Rodriguez exchanged a look with his partner. Ma'am, filing a false police report is a serious offense. We'll need to include all of this information in our report. After the officers left, I sat in my apartment feeling a mixture of vindication and dread. My parents had made such a catastrophic error in judgment that they had essentially handed me a nuclear weapon in our family war. Not only had they filed a false police report, but they had done it in a way that exposed their theft of Nana's money to law enforcement. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my dad and his voice was shaking with rage. Kirsten, what did you tell those police officers? I told them the truth, Dad. Something you seem to have forgotten how to do. You've destroyed this family with your selfishness and lies. I destroyed this family. You called the police on your own daughter for money that you stole from your own mother. You filed a false report claiming I stole money that you never gave me. I just showed them the evidence. Those recordings are illegal and I'm going to have you arrested for wiretapping. Dad, I already explained to you that Colorado is a one-party consent state. Those recordings are completely legal. And now you've involved the police in your lies, which makes everything official. The line went quiet for a moment before he said something that chilled me to the bone. If you think this is over, you're wrong. We have ways of making your life very difficult. He hung up, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. My father had just threatened me over a recorded police line, because Officer Rodriguez had mentioned they might follow up with additional questions, meaning there was a documented trail of this entire conversation. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the day's events and wondering what other desperate measures my parents might take to avoid accountability. I had no idea that their next move would be so spectacularly stupid that it would unite the entire extended family against them and expose years of carefully hidden secrets. But first I needed to call Nana and let her know that the police had confirmed her grandson had stolen her gift money and then tried to frame his own daughter for theft. Something told me that this revelation was going to trigger a chain reaction that would destroy my parents' carefully constructed facade forever. As I finally drifted off to sleep, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. My parents had spent years teaching me to be independent and resourceful by withholding their support. They had no idea that those very skills would be exactly what I needed to systematically dismantle their lies and hold them accountable for decades of manipulation. The student had become the teacher, and class was officially in session. The next morning I called Nana to update her about the police visit, and her reaction was even more explosive than I had anticipated. What I didn't expect was that my revelation would trigger her to share information that painted my parents' manipulation as even more sinister than I had realized. Kirsten, honey, there's something I've been keeping to myself, but after what happened yesterday with the police, I think you deserve to know the whole truth, Nana said, her voice heavy with emotion. What do you mean, Nana? Your graduation money wasn't the first time they've done this. Over the past 5 years, I've given your father over $8.00 specific gifts meant for you. Your 21st birthday, Christmas money, Easter gifts, academic achievement bonuses. I kept asking him if you liked the gifts, or if you had thanked him for passing them along, and he always said you were grateful but not very expressive. My heart sank as the scope of their theft became clear. Nana, I never received any of that money. Not a single dollar. I was afraid of that. Last Christmas, I gave him $500 specifically for your Christmas gift, and when I asked you about it at Easter dinner, you had no idea what I was talking about. That's when I started getting suspicious. $8,000. Over 5 years, my parents had stolen $8.00 gifts from my grandmother, while maintaining the narrative that I was ungrateful and distant. They had weaponized my natural independence against me, using it to justify their theft and manipulation. There's more, sweetheart. I started keeping records after Christmas, and I called your Aunt Sarah yesterday to compare notes. She's been giving your father money for Kirsten's student loans for the past 3 years, about $200 a month. My Aunt Sarah, my dad's sister, had been unknowingly funding what she thought were my educational expenses while I was actually working multiple jobs to pay my own way through school. The web of lies was staggering. Nana, they've been running a scam using my name to get money from the family. That's exactly what I think, and I'm not going to stand for it anymore. I'm calling a family meeting for this Sunday, and everyone is going to hear the truth about what's been happening. Sunday arrived and I found myself sitting in Nana's living room, surrounded by my extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, and family friends who had watched me grow up. My parents sat across from me looking confident and prepared to spin their narrative. Tyler wasn't there, which I later learned was because my parents had told him to stay away to avoid unnecessary drama. Nana stood at the front of the room like a prosecutor presenting evidence to a jury. She had prepared a detailed presentation, complete with bank records, receipts, and a timeline of every gift that had been stolen from me over the years. For 5 years, Nana began, I have been giving David money specifically designated for Kirsten's gifts and achievements. In total, I have given him $8.100 that was meant for his daughter. Yesterday, I learned from the police report he filed against her that none of this money ever reached Kirsten. The room fell silent as family members absorbed this information. Aunt Sarah was the first to speak up. Dad, I've been giving you $200 a month for Kirsten's student loans. Are you telling me that money never went to her education? My dad's face was turning red, but he was still trying to maintain control. These are private family financial matters that shouldn't be discussed in front of everyone. No, David, Uncle Mike interjected. When you take money from multiple family members under false pretenses, it becomes everyone's business. That's when I stood up and pulled out my laptop. I'd like to share some additional information that I think everyone should know. I played the recording of Tyler admitting that the graduation money had gone to his security deposit, followed by my parents' attempts to gaslight me about attending graduation. The room was completely silent except for the sounds of family members shifting uncomfortably in their seats. Jesus Christ, David, Uncle Mike said after the recording ended. You called the police on your own daughter for money you stole from your mother. My mom finally spoke up, her voice shaky but defiant. Kirsten has always been difficult and ungrateful. She's trying to destroy this family with lies and manipulation. Cousin Jessica, who had always been close to me, stood up angrily. Ungrateful Linda, she worked 3 jobs to pay for college while you funded Tyler's failures. She graduated summa cum laude and you couldn't even show up. How exactly is she the problem here? That's when Aunt Sarah dropped the bombshell that changed everything. Linda, I've been thinking about something. Remember when Kirsten was 16 and you told everyone she was going through a rebellious phase and didn't want family help with her car insurance? I offered to help and you said she was too proud to accept money from relatives. I remember that I said, slowly, pieces clicking together. You told me Aunt Sarah thought I was spoiled and didn't want to help me with car expenses. Aunt Sarah's face went white. I never said that. I specifically offered to help with your car insurance and your mother told me you had refused and said you didn't need family charity. The room erupted as family members began comparing notes and realizing the extent of my parents' manipulation. They had been playing both sides for years, telling me that extended family thought I was spoiled and self-sufficient while telling the family that I was ungrateful and didn't want their help. "How many other lies have you told?" Nana demanded, her voice shaking with anger. "How many times have you used our love for Kirsten to manipulate us while simultaneously poisoning her against us?" My dad stood up abruptly. "We don't have to listen to this character assassination. Linda, we're leaving." "No, you're not," Uncle Mike said, blocking their path to the door. "You're going to sit down and account for every dollar you've stolen, and you're going to explain why you thought it was acceptable to lie to your entire family for years." That's when my mom completely lost control and screamed something that revealed the depth of their resentment. "Because she doesn't deserve it. Tyler needed that money more than she did. She's always been perfect and successful. And she doesn't need help from anyone. Why should she get gifts and support when she never needed us?" The silence that followed was deafening. My mom had just admitted that they had stolen money meant for me because they believed my success made me less deserving of love and support. Cousin David, Uncle Mike's son who was studying law, spoke up quietly. "Linda, what you just described is financial fraud and theft. You took money under false pretenses, misrepresented the recipients, and filed a false police report when caught. This isn't just family drama anymore. This is criminal behavior." My parents left shortly after, but not before Nana made it clear that they were no longer welcome in her home until they made full restitution and issued public apologies to everyone they had lied to. As the family dispersed, I found myself surrounded by relatives offering genuine apologies for years of misunderstanding and expressing shock at the manipulation they had unknowingly participated in. The family I thought saw me as selfish and distant actually loved me deeply but had been systematically lied to about my feelings and needs. But the story wasn't over. My parents' desperation to maintain control would lead them to make one final catastrophic mistake that would ensure their social exile became permanent and complete. The aftermath of the family meeting was swift and decisive, but my parents' final act of desperation was so spectacularly backfired that it became legendary family lore. 2 days after being confronted by the entire extended family, my mother made a choice that would cement their reputation as manipulative thieves forever. She posted a lengthy Facebook rant about me. The post, which she made public instead of limiting it to friends, painted me as an ungrateful daughter who was spreading lies about my loving parents to steal inheritance money. She claimed I was mentally unstable, financially irresponsible, and trying to turn the family against them, out of jealousy over Tyler's success. She even suggested that I had forged recordings and fabricated evidence to support my delusions. What my mother didn't realize was that every single family member from Sunday's meeting saw that post, and they were furious. Aunt Sarah was the first to comment, posting a detailed breakdown of exactly how much money she had given my parents over the years for Kirsten's education, along with bank records and screenshots of text conversations where my parents had specifically requested money for my student loans. Uncle Mike shared the post with a comment explaining that he had witnessed my parents lie directly to the police and that anyone who wanted to verify the truth could contact Officer Rodriguez directly. Cousin Jessica, who worked in social media marketing, created a point-by-point rebuttal that was so thoroughly researched and documented that it went viral in our local community. She included public records of my academic achievements, screenshots of my parents missing important events, and a timeline of their financial requests from family members that totaled over $15. Money they claimed was for my benefit. But the most devastating response came from Nana, who posted a simple comment that said, "Linda, I have 5 years of receipts showing money I gave you specifically for Kirsten's gifts that you kept for yourself. I also have the police report number from when you tried to have your own daughter arrested for theft. Anyone who wants proof of who the real thief is in this family can contact me directly." Within 24 hours, my mother's post had over 200 comments, most of them from friends, neighbors, and community members, expressing shock and disgust at her behavior. Several people shared their own stories of my parents asking for money for Kirsten's emergencies that had apparently never reached me. The community theater where my mother volunteered posted that they were reviewing her leadership position. The country club where my parents were members received so many complaints that they launched an internal investigation into membership conduct. My parents went from respected community members to social pariahs in less than a week. But the real justice came when Tyler finally learned the complete truth about how his lifestyle had been funded. Cousin David, who was handling the legal aspects of the family's restitution demands, showed Tyler the full financial breakdown of everything my parents had stolen from me to support him. Tyler called me 3 days later sobbing, "Kirsten, I had no idea. I thought the money came from their business. I thought you just didn't want help because you were proud. I never knew they were stealing from you and lying to everyone." "Tyler, you're not responsible for their choices," I said, surprised by my own capacity for forgiveness. "Yes, I am. I'm 22 years old and I've never questioned why I got everything handed to me while you struggled. I should have known something was wrong. I'm going to pay you back every dollar even if it takes me years." True to his word, Tyler got his first real job the following week and immediately set up a payment plan to reimburse me for the graduation money and a portion of the other stolen funds. He also moved out of the apartment my parents had funded and into a studio he could afford on his own. The legal consequences for my parents were swift. The false police report resulted in charges that cost them $5 0 inches, legal fees, and community service requirements. Nana filed a civil lawsuit for the return of all stolen gift money, which they settled out of court for the full amount plus interest. Several extended family members also demanded restitution for money they had given under false pretenses. But perhaps the most satisfying justice was social. My parents' carefully constructed image as successful, loving parents was completely destroyed. They lost friends, social standing, and respect in the community. My father's accounting business suffered as clients learned about his personal financial ethics. They were forced to sell their house and downsize significantly to cover their legal fees and restitution payments. 6 months later, I received a letter from my mother attempting to reconcile. It was filled with non-apology apologies and attempts to minimize their behavior while painting themselves as victims of my vindictive campaign. I didn't respond. A year later, Tyler and I have built a genuine relationship based on honesty and mutual respect. He's thriving in his job, paying his own way for the first time in his life, and regularly attending therapy to understand his role in the family dysfunction. We have dinner once a month, and he never fails to express gratitude for my forgiveness and respect for my strength. Nana and I are closer than ever. She frequently tells people that watching me handle the situation with dignity and documentation taught her that sometimes the people who seem the strongest are the ones who've been carrying the heaviest burdens in silence. The extended family gatherings are more honest and loving than they've ever been. Without my parents' manipulation, creating artificial divisions, we've discovered that we genuinely enjoy each other's company. Family events are no longer performance opportunities but actual celebrations of our relationships. As for me, I've learned that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. That documentation and evidence matter when dealing with manipulative people. That blood relation doesn't automatically earn someone the right to abuse your trust and kindness. And that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for a toxic family member is to hold them accountable for their actions even if they never thank you for it. So here's my question for all of you who've stuck with me through this wild journey of family betrayal and ultimate justice. Have you ever had to choose between keeping family peace and standing up for what's right? How do you handle relatives who manipulate family loyalty to get away with bad behavior? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single one, and your experiences help other people realize they're not alone in dealing with toxic family dynamics. If this story resonated with you, or if you believe that karma always finds a way to balance the scales, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up to manipulation and finding your voice. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that it's okay to demand better treatment from the people who claim to love you. Thank you for taking this journey with me and for all the support you've shown. Remember, family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who show up for your achievements, support your struggles, and celebrate your success without trying to steal credit or money from your victories. Keep setting boundaries, keep demanding honesty, and keep believing that you deserve better than manipulation disguised as love. Until next time, stay strong, stay documented, and never let anyone convince you that asking for basic respect and honesty makes you the villain in your own story.